Before anything else, pause. There is something important happening here, not something new, but something being confirmed. This message is not here to surprise you. It is here to validate what you have already been sensing. Take a breath. If this video appeared for you now, it's because the feeling you couldn't fully explain was real. That subtle awareness, that quiet knowing, that sense that something was already shifting beneath the surface. Nothing dramatic needed to happen for this to be true. No signs had to be obvious. No words had to be spoken. Some confirmations arrive without noise. Time feels different when this happens. Moments slow down. Your attention sharpens. And internally, something settles into place. You don't need to analyze yet. You don't need to act. You don't need to explain anything to anyone. Just recognize this. What you've been sensing was not imagination. It was alignment forming. And if something in you feels calm instead of anxious right now, it's because the process didn't start today. Today is simply the moment you became aware of it. If this message found you, it may not be by coincidence. Like the video and subscribe to stay connected to messages that arrive at the right time. Nothing that is unfolding now is random. There is an order moving quietly beneath what you can see. Not rushing, not forcing, not demanding attention. What you've been sensing is part of a larger sequence already in motion. The universe doesn't announce its adjustments. It aligns things subtly through timing, pauses, and internal recognition. You may notice that events don't feel chaotic. They feel precise. Even moments of uncertainty carry a strange sense of direction, as if something invisible is guiding outcomes without asking for permission. This is how cosmic order works, not through shock, but through calibration. When your intuition sharpens like this, it's because you are in sync with that order. You're not ahead of it. You're not behind it. You're exactly where you need to be to notice it. Nothing needs to be forced right now. Nothing needs to be corrected manually. The alignment you sensed didn't come from effort. It came from readiness. And when readiness meets timing, confirmation follows naturally. What you're recognizing now didn't appear overnight. It's part of a pattern that has been quietly forming over time. Small repetitions, subtle signals, moments that didn't feel significant back then, but make sense now. When a pattern reveals itself, it doesn't accuse or judge. It simply becomes visible. You may realize that certain situations have been repeating in similar ways, that your reactions have been evolving, that what once felt confusing now feels familiar, almost predictable. This is not regret. It's awareness. Patterns don't emerge to trap you. They emerge so you can move beyond them. And the fact that you can see it now means you're no longer inside it. You're observing it from a higher level. Nothing here is meant to pull you backward. This recognition exists to free your attention and refine your direction. What you sensed before wasn't vague intuition. It was your awareness noticing the pattern before your mind had words for it. And now that it's clear, you don't need to repeat it again. Before anything changes on the outside, something adjusts within. The signal you felt wasn't emotional noise. It was a calibration, a subtle shift in how your body responds, a different level of tolerance, a quieter mind that no longer needs constant reassurance. You may have noticed that certain thoughts no longer loop the same way, that some concerns lost urgency without explanation, that your intuition began speaking more clearly, without pressure. This internal signal doesn't demand action. It asks for attention. When you respect it, things stop feeling forced. Decisions become simpler, reactions become slower and more intentional. Nothing is missing here. Nothing is wrong. This is what alignment feels like before it becomes visible. And the fact that you notice this signal means you're already responding correctly. By not rushing, by not resisting, by staying present. When the internal signal stabilizes, the external world follows. Confirmation doesn't arrive as a single event. It unfolds in quiet ways. You start to notice that things feel slightly easier, not because everything is perfect, but because resistance fades. Situations resolve themselves without long explanations. Choices feel clearer. You stop second-guessing what once consumed your attention. This is how confirmation works. It doesn't announce itself. It simplifies. What once required effort now asks for presence. What once felt heavy now feels neutral. Nothing here is accidental. When confirmation begins, it means the alignment you sensed is being reinforced. You don't need proof from others. The shift is internal, and that's enough. Momentum builds not through speed, but through consistency. And when this phase settles in, you realize you're no longer waiting for validation. You're living it. As alignment settles, protection becomes subtle, not as barriers, not as warnings, but as redirection. You may notice that certain situations no longer reach you, that conversations don't escalate, that potential complications dissolve before they fully form. This is not avoidance. It's precision. Quiet protection works by keeping you out of what no longer serves your trajectory. You're guided away without needing to struggle. Delays become safeguards. Silence becomes clarity. Distance becomes relief. Nothing is being taken from you here. You're simply being positioned where friction has less influence. When protection is quiet, it doesn't seek recognition. It just maintains stability. And if you felt calmer lately, less reactive, less pulled, that's not coincidence. It's confirmation that something unseen is working in your favor. Some changes don't announce themselves. They simply happen. You may notice that your focus has shifted without effort, that certain priorities feel more obvious, that what once demanded attention no longer calls for it. This is a natural shift, not something you force, not something you plan. Your energy begins to organize itself differently. You invest it with more intention. You withdraw it without guilt. Nothing here feels dramatic, and that's the point. When a natural shift occurs, it doesn't come from loss. It comes from clarity. You're not reacting to circumstances. You're responding to alignment. This is why things feel quieter now, why your inner space feels more stable, why decisions don't require long internal debates. The shift you're experiencing didn't start today. Today is simply when it became undeniable, and once a shift becomes natural, there's no need to question it. When things finally begin to flow, the biggest interruption is subtle. It's not resistance, it's overcorrection, trying to analyze what no longer needs explanation, rushing to define what is still stabilizing, revisiting old doubts out of habit. Flow doesn't respond well to urgency, it responds to trust. At this stage, the impulse to do something can quietly disrupt what is already aligning, not because action is wrong, but because timing matters. Another interruption comes from returning to familiar mental loops, questioning decisions that already feel resolved, seeking reassurance where inner confirmation already exists. Nothing here requires fixing. Nothing requires proving. The flow stays intact when you allow things to remain simple. When you don't reopen what has already settled, this is not a test. It's a reminder. When you respect the rhythm of alignment, the momentum continues naturally. Not everyone experiences this phase the same way. The ones who benefit most are not the loudest. They are not the most impatient. They are not the ones demanding quick results. They are the ones who stayed consistent when clarity was missing, who continued showing up without certainty, who trusted their internal signals even when nothing external confirmed them yet. This phase rewards stability, not urgency, awareness, not force. If you're feeling calm instead of excited, grounded instead of rushed, that's a sign you're in sync with this moment. You don't need to compare your path to anyone else's. Alignment is personal. Timing is individual. The benefit here isn't something flashy. It's sustainable. And those who recognize it quietly are the ones prepared to carry it forward. When you're ready, say, continue topic 10, quiet recognition, and we continue. Recognition doesn't always come through words. Sometimes it shows up as ease, as respect that doesn't need to be requested, as decisions that are accepted without resistance. You may notice that people respond differently to you now, not because you changed who you are, but because your presence is clearer. When alignment settles, recognition becomes subtle. You don't need to announce progress. You don't need to justify your choices. Things move forward without friction. Boundaries are understood without explanation. Your direction feels self-evident. This kind of recognition doesn't inflate the ego. It grounds you. It confirms that you're operating from a place of internal authority, not external approval. And once you experience this, you understand that being seen isn't about visibility. It's about coherence. The biggest shift isn't in what you do. It's in how you carry yourself. You explain less, you react less. You feel no need to convince, not because you're distant, but because you're centered. Your posture becomes steady, your presence becomes clear, and your energy stops adjusting itself to every external movement. This is where real change happens. When your posture aligns internally, the world responds naturally. Conversations feel simpler, decisions feel lighter, you no longer feel pulled in multiple directions. Nothing here is forced, nothing is defensive. This posture isn't learned. It's assumed when you trust what you already know, and once it settles, you realize you don't need to push for momentum. Momentum meets you where you stand. When you're ready, say, continue topic 12, what must be sustained, and we continue. Reaching this point is not the end. It's the beginning of maintenance. What is aligned now needs to be sustained with coherence, not effort, with awareness, not pressure. The most common mistake at this stage is drifting back into old rhythms out of habit, not because they're needed, but because they're familiar. Sustaining alignment means honoring the clarity you've gained, choosing consistency over impulse, depth over distraction. You don't need to hold everything tightly. You just need to stay honest with yourself. When your actions match what you already know internally, stability remains intact. When you move against that knowing, friction returns. Nothing here asks for perfection. It asks for integrity. This phase continues as long as you respect your own signals, your own timing, your own pace. And when you do, what's aligned doesn't slip away. It settles in. When you're ready, say, continue, topic 13. The final confirmation plus CTA, and we'll close the cycle. At the end of this process, there is no sudden excitement. What appears instead is a quiet certainty. You stop questioning what you already know. You stop waiting for external signs. You stop revisiting decisions that feel settled. There's a calm recognition that something important has aligned. Not because it was forced, but because it was ready. Nothing dramatic needs to happen next. What matters is already in motion. If something still feels unfinished, it's because it's still being organized in your favor. Alignment doesn't rush outcomes. It prepares them. And if you're feeling more grounded than emotional right now, that's the confirmation. You didn't. Imagine what you were sensing. You were ahead of it. If this message resonated with you, like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay connected to messages that arrive at the right time. And comment, confirmed, if you made it to the end. It helps the channel and shows who was truly aligned with this message. Something has been confirmed, and what comes next will make even more sense when it arrives.